it is really critical to set up an effective profile in USAJobs. And there's a couple of things to pay attention to. Number one, if you haven't used USAJobs in a while, the sign-on has changed. It now has two-factor authentication, and that happened about a year and a half ago. So if it's been a while, go check your USAJobs account now before you're ready to apply. It actually, when I changed my USAJobs account to accommodate the two-factor authentication, it took me way longer than I anticipated. So give yourself a good, solid hour and a half to make that change. The second thing that is critical in USAJobs is to use a professional sounding email. Please. You're a grown-up. And emails like hotmama.com or hotrodguy or something else that might be cute and appropriate for your personal life is not the least bit appropriate for job hunting and applying for jobs. I would encourage you to use a personal email rather than your work email, and try to get an email with your name in it. And please, in your email account name, do not use your birth year, because there are a number of organizations out there that will not accept an email address that has a birth year in it because they are concerned about potential age discrimination. And in a perfect world, you should be using Gmail or Outlook.com or something that demonstrates that you are in this century. So if you're still using AOL, while you certainly won't be rejected for using AOL, it does say something about your age, and it demonstrates that you really haven't kept up with the times. So if you want to keep AOL for online shopping or communicating with friends and family, no worries. But for job hunting and job applications, we want to make sure your email address is professional and current. Now, one thing about USAJobs and setting up profiles is that the profile itself has a boatload of fields all ready to be filled in. However, only the fields that have an asterisk are actually required to be used. And so there's all kinds of fields, one of which is where in the universe do you actually want to work? USAJobs offers more than 100 possibilities around the world where you might want to work. Please don't check off all 100 places around the globe where you're willing to go. What people do not understand about that is when your resume is printed out, every place you want to go is shown vertically, one place on every line. So it could be page 3 or 4 of your resume, depending how many locations you checked off, before I can even see your name. So here's a clue. Don't apply for jobs in locations where you don't want to work. Problem solved. And a really critical piece here is when you are setting up your USAJobs profile, it is very important that you pay attention to all of your eligibilities. This is absolutely positively your responsibility. HR will not do this. So what do I mean by eligibilities? Some of you are eligible for veterans preference. And of those of you eligible for veterans preference, some of you might be eligible for as many as 4 different kinds of veterans eligibility consideration. And if you don't check off all the different ways that you are eligible, I guarantee you that HR is not going to check those things off for you either. So this is really, truly your responsibility. There are other eligibilities out there in addition to veterans preference. Those include things like former Peace Corps volunteers, Schedule A eligibility, military spouse, all of those kinds of things. So critical, make sure you check off all of the right boxes there and upload the requisite documents to prove your eligibility. And not just upload those documents, but make sure those documents are actually readable. Far too often, I see copies of scans of scans of copies of scans, and honestly, no one can read your docs. And if we can't read your docs, you're not going to get credit for the eligibility that you might have. In addition, those of you who have veterans preference eligibility, it's not only important to make sure your documents are readable, but please make sure you upload the proper copy of your DD-214. Back in the old days, back when I had to walk barefoot to school uphill in both directions, the DD-214 was 1 page only. However, now it is multi-part. So make sure that when, in fact, you upload your DD-214, it is the member copy of the DD-214 and it shows your discharge.